This week on your old school RuneScape update, Poll 82 brings changes to minigames including Wintertodt, Guardians of the Rift, and more. We discuss questions involving XP, quality of life, and how polls come together. Also another look at While Guthix Sleep's rewards and Tormented Demon changes. This is the Old School RuneScape Update, Episode 37, recorded Saturday, July 20th, 2024. Trouble Breeding. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Old School RuneScape Update. Sirion and myself are here as we are each and every week. Welcome back. Just the two of us this week.
Yeah.
Time to
quiet
settle.
Week.
Yeah.
Quiet week after,
Is it?
after some hard
Is
hitters.
Is it a quiet week? I don't know. It feels like we
It is in the wilderness because everybody is doing Deadman.
Yeah, and I have things to do in the wilderness. Yeah, well, that's happening, but more on that later, folks. Of course, you're probably wondering what we're going to be talking about this week. We have the poll that was put out this week, Poll 82, the minigame makeover, some updates to While Guthix Sleeps, and, of course, a catch-up on what our adventures have been doing. But before that, just a quick note to go take our survey. It's a survey to figure out where you, our listeners, are at with what OSRS Update produces. So we'd greatly appreciate that. Head on over to update.show/survey. Take our survey. It'll take you about 2 minutes to do. We greatly appreciate your input, and we'll be using that, of course, to determine where the podcast goes in the future. That's again update.show/survey, or you can just find the link in the show notes at update.show if you don't want to type all the extra characters into your keyboard. But
Go do it.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Yeah, a few of you already have, so thank you for that. But minigame poll. I feel like this is a good thing to be talking about because I did particularly this week take a detour to our first minigame on this poll. I decided it was trying to train some fire making. I had level 50, but I do need to get a bit more for the quests on the road. So I headed off to Wintertodt this week, and I can actually see why we might need some of these changes at this minigame here. The first, of course, being replacing hit points with a warmth meter in terms of damaging you and giving you a different resource to upkeep. How do you feel about this first one?
I think it makes a lot of sense. On my Iron Man, I was actually rushing to 50 fire making so I could do some Wintertodt with like low hit points, because at that point you can just, make sure that your natural regen is high enough, and that's about everything you need.
Yeah.
And the game sort of locked you into that. That was sort of the meta strategy. Even if maybe the difference wasn't that big, because ultimately it's not like food will break the bank. It's still not nice that they're sort of making sure that you're not being punished for not doing this at the start of your run. It's just weird reading in guides that you shouldn't do the witch house quest, because once you do that and you get a bunch of hit points XP, Wintertodt becomes so much less efficient. And it's weird that you should not do certain content, because it makes a lot of sense. I like what they're doing here. I think for a skilling boss, it's the right way to go. It makes sense.
Yeah, and to just describe the change, they say if a bite of food provides 4 hit points or more, that bite will restore 35% warmth. That also, of course, applies to potions like the Saradomin Brew, and this will allow players of all hit points levels to use something like cakes as their food source rather than having to switch to vastly more expensive food items at a higher level with that. And, I even where I'm at right now, I've just been using wine for my run. Granted, I do need to, refill every 2 runs or so with that, but it worked, and it is kind of annoying seeing that, oh my god, I might actually die and kill myself here for this. So this is definitely.
I've actually died during one of the runs because I was being stubborn. I was like, I want to finish this kill. I'm out of food, but I want to finish this kill. It was just one of these kills where I got hit with like the worst RNG. Like I started with a decent amount of food. It's just like I got hit time and time again. So
yeah, and that's kind of where we go to the next batch of changes. The section and the other changes for Wintertodt. You mentioned RNG and being overridden by the damage, and I'm going to start with that one rather than the supply crate one, but they want to add a short invincibility window after the normal attack so that players are guaranteed to get at least one fletching action in before being interrupted again. And like you said, that's entirely up to RNG, and I noticed that as well.
Yeah, like I don't mind the interruption too much. It's just that sometimes you just get hit 2 or 3 times in a row, and you go through your food so quickly, and it all feels a little bit annoying. Ideally, the damage is a little bit more predictable, but I think this is
it's a good compromise. It's a good compromise. Yeah. They also want to change the reward system to make it more like Temperos, in that rather than obtaining the supply crate, you get something else.
I kind of like that. It's a little bit of a pain that, I mean, you have to get food, but you also have to drop off like the supply boxes because they start taking up part of your inventory. And you don't really know how many rolls you have, because like crates have like different number of rolls. I liked that when I did Temperos, it just sort of started adding up the reward permits. And same with Goddess of the Rift, right? Like you just add them up, and then at the end of your session, you just get this dopamine hit of like, get me all of the rewards at once. It's the same as like casket opening events, right? You can sort of work yourself up to like a big event in the back. So I like it. I think it's good.
Yeah, and also perhaps the simplest one, but something that people would like, is making the Burma torch an offhand slot item, allowing you to, of course, have the axe and the torch equipped at the same time. Which
the torch has always surprised me, right? Like it occupies the same slot as the hatchet, so I never really understand what its value is. Like a lot of people actually seem to be wearing it inside the Wintertodt instance, which surprises me because like for the Dragon Hatchet, you can use the special attack and get yourself like a woodcutting boost, which granted at some point your woodcutting level is high enough is that you max out the gathering chance to begin with, but I don't know, it feels weird, and this way it actually adds some value. I also love the idea of like an offhand light source to break into like all the caves doing quests.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'll tell my Wintertodt story later. I was debating whether now what was the time for it. But that's it for Wintertodt.
I think ultimately, like I think it's important to understand where these skilling bosses sit, right? Like, and Wintertodt I think is maybe the very first of the skilling bosses they added, if I remember correctly. And you can tell if you play it. Like I think the underlying design is good, but there's a lot of rough edges, and I think this definitely reduces it. I also like that they made the rejuvenation potions like heal you. With people using that as food, we're probably gonna see. It's so funny playing on Mass Worlds, where like the Pyromancer dies, and like everybody just runs away to the other brazier because oh god, healing the Pyromancer. That's not.
That's right.
And it was in one instance, it was incredibly funny. All 4 Pyromancers were dead.
Oh god, what do we do now?
It was so funny. So this hopefully reduces that as well. Like people can just make those potions, heal them. Like I don't know. I think it's nice. I think this puts it in a good spot. It always gets this reputation of being so fast, but I think fire making as a skill has always been fast. Like
Yeah,
even line
because
fire
you and I were
making.
talking about that, about, where this lands in terms of, is line fire making relevant enough with this, and could there be a future where Wintertodt gets an XP nerf? But the reality is that if you line fire make efficiently enough, that's a better, XP way of doing it. And I said, well, what if there was another drop somewhere that came into game, another item that you could use with line fire making to just, lower the time in between lighting logs by a tick or two and make it even faster. So it's the undisputed champion. And if you want,
Yeah, but I don't think it's needed. That's the thing.
right.
Like, why
It's
do we
not.
need to make
It's
fire
not.
making even faster?
No, it's not. And I'm gonna say something that's gonna absolutely pain your heart. What good is fire making aside from these quest requirements?
Oh no, it doesn't do a lot. No.
Right. Yeah. So that's I think where you lean next, with the skill, not to, throw this off the rails towards something else. But we should go to Guardians of the Rift right now. I felt like looking at all the changes this week on the poll, it was the Wintertodt ones that I first had to take a secondary look at and say, does it, or sorry, it was the Guardians of the Rift ones that I had to take a secondary look at. The Wintertodt ones were obvious, but how do you feel about these Guardians of the Rift ones in terms of removing, having the option of removing scaling and player caps here?
I don't know why this is a problem. I haven't
okay.
like I mean maybe it has to do with like time zones, like maybe during all the times there's like more people or different people playing, but I've never had the scaling be a problem with the game. Like as a matter of fact, I think the game actually finishes like very quickly. I would like it to last like a teeny tiny bit longer. I end up being short usually on my cycles. So I don't know. I don't get it. Sure, there are definitely cases where the instance fails, but that has not
rare.
to do with the AFK people.
It's
rare, and it has not to do with the AFK people. It has to do with people not putting their bloody cells down at the wall so they break through, and that's it. And that's being addressed like in the second section.
Right.
The scaling?
Because I feel like in the handful of Guardians of the Rift that I've done, if it's going to fail, it's going to fail in, the first third of the game or so.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
They say if you have 100 players in the game after this change, it would scale components like the number of abyssal creatures to 84% of the current behavior. The first 20 players give 1% each, and the last 80 players give 0.8% each, totaling the 84%. So if a game starts with fewer than 100 players, the game will remain locked after starting. This prevents strangers from joining a small team Guardians of the Rift run while it's in progress. Is that what they're going for here? To let, small groups have their own?
I don't know. Maybe there is like a bigger problem for smaller teams, right? Like I can see that if you're in a small team and not in a mass world, and you join and you don't contribute, that is a problem.
Yeah. And the scaling, I guess, impacts that from that angle.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question though is when you get to actually, asking the question, should you remove the player cap limit and introduce scaling, as the poll question says, the people who play this and use it for, their runecrafting training, they're going to be looking at it from that angle of using the mass world in all likelihood. So I wonder if there's going to be enough of a groundswell from the people who play it casually in their own small groups to influence that poll.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, like I like the player limit cap being removed.
That one, yes.
It's so frustrating going to the mass world and not being able to get in and having to either find a different world or wait like, what is it, like 10, 15 minutes for a game. It's a pain to get started. Like to the point where me doing Guardians of the Rift was like, I need to go and find myself like a block of at least 2 hours so that it's worth finding a world. This would make it a little bit easier to go for shorter sessions, to leave and gear up and all of that.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay.
But I will probably not be voting no for question 6 because it's just not. I have not seen enough evidence that this is a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, that's kind of where I was at with this too, is that I'm not sure if this is something that we need, but the player cap limit, I think it could be removed. I don't think there'd be any issues with that.
No.
It's mainly the scaling side of it. So
exactly.
What about when it comes to the cells, barriers, and guardians section, allowing players to build and charge barriers while the game is still starting up? That's an interesting change on it. I don't know.
I think it's fine. I right now there's only few people who place down cells, which is risky. I think this. I don't know. I think this would actually reduce failures, failed instances. So that's nice. I think question 8 is also nice. Not a major problem I've observed, but again, like, it's always a pain trying to place your cells. Like everybody is trying to place down the cells and get the biggest reward and XP drop. It's so competitive. This is nice. Like let's not make it competitive, right? Like it's a cooperative game, so.
Yeah, and again, I feel like we're kind of in the same Wintertodt situation where people use this as their preferred runecrafting training method if they don't want to, do the dangerous running to the altars through the abyss or ZMI. So there's that, and the one big difference, of course, between Wintertodt and Guardians of the Rift is that Guardians of the Rift it doesn't have the XP rates that Wintertodt does, unfortunately, and I'm realizing that as I do that, but I don't care about the XP. It's a fun take on runecrafting. I feel like the quest that introduced it and the lore behind it is one of the best things that Old School has added in terms of native Old School content.
Yeah.
And the last question, should the cost be changed for repairing a broken barrier from 10 Guardian Essence to 12 Guardian Fragments?
Guardian Essence is it's a big price.
Hard to make,
again, I think this will help reducing failed instances, because right now it feels a little bit if one of the barriers breaks, it's end of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
It's GG at that point. So,
then just one question on rifts: should the first wave be prevented from offering 2 weak rifts at a time, as described in the blog? So if this passes, an active mind or body rift on the first wave would coincide with an elemental rift that's water or better.
Yeah, this is not a problem I have observed, but I can see this being for smaller groups a bigger problem. So that this one I will be voting for. Because that to me is not a problem for me, but they describe it reasonably well.
Yeah. Okay. Rewards. Big search to claim 5 rewards at once. Sure. Why not?
Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
Should there be the option to hand in 25 abyssal pearls for 1 catalytic and 1 elemental energy? This in effect turns out to be extra rolls on the table if you have extra pearls that you don't need.
It's fine, honestly.
Yeah. Should the colossal pouch be changed so that its capacity changes based on the pouches you can currently use? Values for capacity at the various runecrafting levels are mentioned.
Yeah, this one I really like. It's really weird how useless the colossal pouch is, and the level requirement of 85 is fairly big, even though you can get it much earlier.
Yeah.
I like this. I think this is a good change. I have yet to get the Abyssal Needle. I have not been lucky. But I like this.
Fair enough. And
I would love just to just for inventory management, it's nicer, right?
Yeah. Should the variance of the Abyssal Pearl drops be reduced so that players receive 14 to 16 rather than 10 to 20? I mean, I feel like you're at the same place at the end. There's just less RNG in it.
Yeah. In the long run, it doesn't make a big difference.
No, it doesn't. But I guess it just makes you feel better if you're doing a smaller amount. Sure, why not?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh my god, and now we go over to temple trekking. I haven't done temple trekking.
Favorite.
I haven't done temple trekking in old school. But in RS2 and subsequently RS3, oh my god, this was my last comp requirement over there, and it is something that I will avoid like the plague. So only a small number of changes to this. First, should the bog encounter be removed? Yes. And maybe I'm just being biased here. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't quite remember the bog encounter.
That's the one with the
honest.
stick.
Nope.
Okay. All right.
Nope. Don't remember. I did this ages ago. Like it did not leave as big of an impact as it did on you.
Yeah.
Did I like it? No. Did I hate it? Also no. I guess.
Like I don't know what happened to me with this, but what the bog encounter basically is that section of the underground pass where you have to find your pathway through it. You have to do that through a bog using a stick.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I think it's fine.
Apparently there's a plugin that just tells you where to click though for it. So
yeah.
So I mean, this.
At that point, if that's where the game is at, then you just remove it. I think that's fair. Like the game should be challenging, but not unnecessarily annoying.
Yeah, you can only cut the onion so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's our food analogy for the week, which I don't think anybody figured out from last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or no, one of our listeners figured out the apple analogy. They did. Should the quantity of beast nails be increased from 1 to a random 2 to 3, and should the nail beast sounds be made quieter? I honestly don't know about the sounds. I don't remember how that impacts it, and I feel like beast nails going from 2 to 3 from 1 really is not going to make a huge deal in the grand scheme of it, so why not?
Yeah.
Anyways, I want to be done with that section. So next up, Mahogany Homes. How do you feel about Mahogany Homes?
I have yet to do more of it.
Uh-huh.
I don't hate it. The things that they are describing to fix here is the one thing that I was the most annoyed about, so I am really glad that they're fixing it.
Is that the saw or the furniture selection interface?
The furniture selection.
Okay. All right.
So it is so weird to me that if you repair, it works fine. Like you just click and it works, right?
Yeah.
But when you have to build something, there's always only one valid choice, and
it's an extra click. It's an extra click.
It's always an extra click, and I got really
wait. So there's a right click repair option.
Left click repair.
Oh.
On the fonts you repair, like the clock you repair.
Yeah.
But
right.
like then you take away like the table and you build a new one. So
I thought there was like a right click repair that I didn't realize.
Oh no.
Okay. And I assume we have no issues with the saw being made offhand, just like the torch.
No, I now it's actually worthwhile to get. I think previously I didn't really care much for it. Now it's interesting all of a sudden. I also like the unpole changes, the tea drinking stuff, just to make it a little bit like quicker.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree on that.
And they're adding a preferred contract. That's not being pulled, it looks like, but adding a preferred contract so that you can right click and quickly accept it.
Right, because
I feel like
it's
going to be not.
Go ahead.
That to me is not going to be as relevant because I use NPC contact.
Fair enough. And, I feel like the vast majority of people who are doing this are just using whatever they have for the highest level available.
Yeah.
if you're higher level than you're using the other one, it might just be things like Iron Man concerns or resource concerns. But so we also have some changes to Last Man Standing. This is content that I haven't interacted with on this side, but both of those are going to be unpulled in terms of fog spread. So that's hunky dory right there. Also, Zerker bracelet to 50 defense and adding the Perilous Moons armor sets to the bracket.
Zerker bracket.
Boy, I'm having
bracelet.
I'm having breeding.
No, not just reading problems. It sounds like
breeding problems.
Breathing problems. Mm-hmm.
I said breeding, not breathing.
Breeding problems. Ah, I see. I think you should go and talk to a doctor about that.
Soul Wars.
When I read this post, I learned that there is a safe spot for the blue team's avatar.
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's. Of course.
I caught on to that relatively quickly when leaks was happening, and I had a little smile on my face when I was put onto the correct team there. Because I saw that.
Yeah,
happen.
I mean, this is
So, we also have Trouble Brewing. Oh, I actually enjoyed that minigame back in the day. Did you?
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really good if you play it with a few people.
Oh yeah, the Clan Quest events is what I'm talking about.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. I mean, I bet you're the kind of person that takes too much joy out of sabotage. In that game, we used to play versions with and without sabotage. Like we used to play a few of both. Which I like it. Yeah, no, it's a really well designed thing.
Yeah, it holds up. I just don't know that what the draw to it is in 2024, as like the core game loop runs. But the question here is, should it be made so that players can gain an extra 10 pieces of 8 per rum they brew? Good. Next up, Bounty Hunters. Should Bounty Hunters' unique rewards be able to be used in other PvP minigames, such as Soul Wars, Castle Wars, or Clan Wars? That's an interesting idea. I don't have any...
I have no opinion on this. I'll probably skip this question. I just don't know enough about PvP minigames. I don't have interest in that kind of gameplay. So...
But there is somewhere that you have been this week, and that's Temperos.
Yes. Quick start option, yes, please.
Yeah. Big search, sure. And should players be allowed to use blighted supplies in all PvP minigames? Interesting how this is here compared to right in with the Temperos changes, but okay.
Oh, it is not the remaining. Yeah, I think they would add it based on the feedback. So.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. And should players be allowed to swap between a main hand and an offhand version of the Imkando hammer, as described in the blog?
Yeah, I still don't know. Like, I think they would have been fine making them just pure offhand versions. Because now we're getting to a point where they can be swapped between main hand and offhand, which sounds unnecessarily complex. But I guess people have gotten used to having setups with them in their main hand slot, so fair enough.
Yeah. And we get also here in this a bonus Varlamore question for a piece of Varlamore content on the way. It's the Glacial Tumultly, a pair of double-hitting Tier 55 crush weapons whose stats mirror the Sulphur Blades. So with this, should these be added as a rare drop from the Ice Nagua in a future Varlamore update? Yeah, okay, level 55.
Why not?
It's just so weird that this is here at the end, right?
Yeah, I guess they needed to pull it somewhere and making a whole separate poll for it makes no sense.
Yeah. So, 64 strength crush weapon. Interesting. And this is again that horizontal, design stuff we always talk about here. So
yes.
All right. And with this, they opened up the field to a wider discussion about just the way these polls are carried out, and there's a survey there about how people feel they should attack these quality of life polls in the future with these. So, what's your initial take on seeing this?
It's, I don't know. Like, I'm gonna be honest. This was the quality of life survey I was looking forward to the most.
Okay.
For a long time.
Okay.
So I can see why people might be disappointed with what's here. Right?
Yeah.
With what's in a single poll.
Yeah.
I'm not disappointed necessarily, but I would love to see, if there's more ideas, I'd love to see more, right? Like, please go ahead.
Right.
So I think that's what I voted as well. Like, if you want to do another minigame theme poll, yes. I mean, good ideas are good ideas, so I'd love that. I like the polls being themed, though. I would love to lose that.
You'd like it if they weren't themed.
No. I think they should be themed.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you'd like to lose that.
I wouldn't like to.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I would hate to lose that.
Yeah. I'm honestly indifferent to this. Like, I feel like sometimes as well, doing it in a huge grab bag section, that might be okay. But at the same time, I do see the benefit from doing, the themed aspects of it. And it was a bit weird having a few of those extra little things tacked on at the end. So I don't know. I'm indifferent on that, but I do think I agree with you that there definitely could be another, say minigame flavored poll in the future on this based on feedback that was received, because we know that they can definitely do these polls relatively quickly, right? In terms of putting them out, fielding them, and then coming back from them.
One per quarter, right? So it's not that they're super quick. Like, they do take effort.
No. I mean, like, not necessarily between, like, have like 2 or 3 of these back to back to back. But I'm just saying that after poll 82 is out, we're going to be seeing polls 83 and 84 in the short future after that. So there's not a lot of lead time between these.
Yeah,
is where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's so much that can be changed, right? About the game, it can be updated. Choices need to be made, so I don't know. I think the story that Jagex puts together here is totally fair and reasonable.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. They know how to, pitch this to the player, and I feel like a lot of what was in this one in particular here, nothing was too controversial, because you don't get controversial polls if you're walking in lockstep with where the players are at. I mean, and that's one thing that the old school team does, the vast majority of the time.
Yeah, the whole moral of the story here is, I think the controversy this poll was not what is in the post, but what isn't. Right? That was
What I didn't have a chance to look into the community on this week. What exactly?
No, I didn't either. I didn't really look into it, but like from what I gathered, I mean, and if you read the chat at Wintertodt Masterworlds, let's be honest, like, a lot of people just don't really don't like the whole interruptions at Wintertodt. They just hate it, which is fair, right? It's annoying. And they expected that to go away completely. Whereas you have another part of the community who is probably now complaining that with these changes, Wintertodt is becoming too easy. So as long as both sides are equally complaining, I think they hit the right compromise. But
yeah, and that's a fun way of looking at it, depending what side you're on, right?
Exactly. And to me, it's very much like we're not trying to completely like Wintertodt isn't. It's obviously a very popular piece of content. It's how people train fire making.
Yeah.
Right.
For better or worse.
For better or worse. So let's not make it even better at training fire making. It doesn't need that. But also let's make sure that people don't get, I mean, angry is a big word, but get annoyed at the game while doing that content, which is what the interrupts do at times.
And to be fair, that's what kept me from old school for the longest time, is that I thought there was going to just be this, deluge of content that was from 2007 that was annoying. But, oh no, it turns out that the people at Jagex who have put content out after 2013 actually know what they're doing and have managed to, make content for this game that's actually quite fun and engaging. So
yeah, and look, they need to strike a balance here between making the game less frustrating but not easier necessarily. And the warmth meter is basically saying, you know what, we're not changing anything. Like, realistically, they're not. They're just replacing one number with a different number so that it doesn't have to scale based on your hit points level.
Yeah. And I think
that's all they're doing.
And I think the reason the Wintertodt discussion is so, in the front of everybody's minds because
heated
in the front of everyone's minds and heated is because, like you said, it's the fire making training method, right? Now, you compare that to the Guardians of the Rift discussion. That one was largely focused on the actual, bits and bobs and the mechanics around it, because Guardians of the Rift isn't as fast as Wintertodt, and it's not what people flock to for the XP. They flock to it because it's a good rune crafting training method, but the XP isn't astronomical out there.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think there were people who would expect that if Guardians of the Rift got a touch up, right? Got quality of life updates. They expected the XP rates of that to go up, which again, that completely misses the point of these quality of life updates.
It's not about XP at the end of the day, as much as players would like it to be.
No,
and that's a controversial title of the show for you, by the way, right? It's not about XP, which I mean, players would love it to be. But it's not. Or is it about XP?
I don't know. Like, there is a discussion to be had here whether rune crafting
needs something else. Yeah.
Well, whether it's too slow in general, right? But I feel that stands separate from Guardians of the Rift.
Definitely.
Like, if you look at Guardians of the Rift and Temperos and Wintertodt and like basically any other piece of content, right?
Yeah.
It's calibrated against what's already in the game. You can't change one of these things in isolation unless that particular content is miscalibrated, which does happen sometimes, but typically those problems are solved fairly shortly after release.
Yeah.
Because it is actually, unless like players find like a strategy that was unintended, it's reasonably easy to predict XP rates.
Yeah, and I would also step out and put my neck on the line to say that if XP rates were a problem for either Wintertodt or Guardians of the Rift, they wouldn't be pulled.
No, because then we're talking game integrity changes, and game integrity changes aren't pulled.
Yeah, and I think that encapsulates the whole aspect of this poll entirely, is that these aren't game integrity changes; they're just flow in terms of how you interact with it, and that's why that's all here. But fun for the whole family, as they say.
I can't wait until many of these changes come into the game, to be honest.
That's not where I thought you were going to say.
Oh.
Anyways.
Well, but that's what I said.
I know. While Guthix sleeps. I'm still torn on this. It was a good quest, but at the same time, I stand by our discussion from last week. But this week, we have confirmations of what they put in as a hotfix, in that the Tormented Demons were no longer in a state of permanent aggro. they now have a chance to drop magic longbows, and malicious ashes no longer drop. Noted. And with this, this week, we saw other things added to it, like slight little buffs around the Tormented Demon's drop table. Dark Squall robes and elite black armor will be storable in the POH and
No, that's next
costume.
week. No, that's next week. That's not this week.
Okay, that's next week.
You're reading the section that they added yesterday, actually.
Yeah. But overall, what does this do for us?
I don't know. Like, they make the Tormented Demons a little bit better, and it looks like next week they're basically, next week, instead of changing the drop table, they're basically making the Tormented Demons weaker, which I think is a interesting choice, and maybe a good choice even, right? Because at that point, you're not necessarily introducing higher tier items at a high rate into the game. You're just accelerating the existing ones. So, yeah, I think this is reasonable. I can't say too much. I haven't played. I've killed them myself, but
so with this already in game through hotfix, remove lower tier herbs, remove lower value seeds, remove fire runes, remove vile ashes, up the values of alkables and that adamant becomes rune and the previous rune becomes dragon, added an additional rune alkable, and short bows, battle staves, and the ashes, the malicious ashes, are dropped as noted. And burning claws are being made 17% more common with that. In addition to the Tormented Demons just being made a little bit easier, like you said.
Yeah.
I don't know if that scratches the itch. I don't know if that scratches the itch for people, or if it will.
Maybe not. Like, it's in a weird place. Again, it's a Grandmaster quest. You expect the best of the best rewards.
Exactly.
Right? Like, the reward for Desert Treasure 2 is 4 endgame bosses with appropriate loot. Right? That's the expectation. Like, Dragon Slayer 2, Vorkath, which is an endgame boss with appropriate loot. Song of the Elves
Prif
unlocks the Gauntlet, the Corrupted Gauntlet, and Zarkano, if you want to call that a PVM encounter, which is all, this is all pretty high-end, profitable stuff. Maybe not as much as Money Snake, but it's all up there, right? Like, they're worthwhile rewards. Whereas really nobody wants to go sit and camp Tormented Demons because they're not there yet. The question is, should they be?
Yeah.
It's so hard to say.
Right, because
it's not a boss.
It's the dissonance that's added because this was something that was from 2008 that was just brought to the game. And the question is, do you fit it as it was back then? Or do you make it as if it was coming out today being brand new on that? Which, of course, we had that whole discussion about whether or not that hits the mark.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that Tormented Demons, they should be worthwhile to kill because they're not trivial to kill. So I don't mind them.
You know what
But I'd rather they approach it from this side than overtune it, because if you nerf the drop tables, you're gonna have like riots and not World 66, but
Too bad there wasn't World 666.
Huh.
That would be fun.
But yeah, I don't know. Ultimately,
I've been thinking about this a lot, and you know what I think it boils down to? Is that back in the day, you got the dragon plate body and the dragon claws from the Tormented Demons. And those were iconic. And those were very good.
Yeah, the idea, it's replaced with the synapse, right?
Right. And those are already elsewhere in game.
No, the Tormented Synapse
No.
aren't
I
elsewhere.
mean the claws in the plate body are.
Well, yes, so they replaced it with the Tormented Synapse.
Yeah. But
why is that not scratching the same itch?
Because it's
They're
not
more powerful than Tier 60.
right, but I just don't think they're as iconic because I think people remember how changing those two drops were.
Iconic.
I think
yes,
that I think
the game
that's
is
what's
so
doing this
saturated.
I know it is, and I'm not saying it needs to be more.
The game is too saturated for iconic items.
I know, but
people are all expecting this. I mean, if you want your nostalgia bait, you do the quest. That's your nostalgia bait, not the monsters you kill after that, because they don't have a place in old school of 2024.
Like, that might be the best way of putting it, because I agree with you that everything is too saturated, and I really think that's what, killed the vibe with this, is that it just wasn't as, impactful in terms of the storyline and the rewards as it was in 2008, and I think that's what killed the vibe.
That's what the Ruinous Powers would have, or not the Ruinous Powers, that's the Guthix alignment
and
would have been.
That is exactly where my mind went as well this week. We didn't talk about it on the show last week, but oh my god, I would be in an entirely different place with this quest if we got the Guthix God alignment with this quest.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I get it, right? Like, as a quest, it doesn't actually give very big iconic rewards like all of the other. Like, you don't get Prif, you don't get 4 new bosses, you don't get Vorkath and Myth's Guild and all of that. All of those goodies, right? Like, if you look at the rewards, they're very subdued.
And if we had the God, if we had
again, because I don't think this is truly a Grandmaster quest.
Yeah, and that's also a discussion we had last week too, and I stand by that one still. But I think it does come down to, like you said, the God alignments, and we'd be having an entirely different conversation.
I mean,
if we had
yes, maybe, but at the same time, Desert Treasure would have the God alignments added. Some of the elves would have the
right.
So While Guthix Sleeps would still be a lesser quest in terms of reward space.
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, overall, I feel just to dot the I and cross the T on this one, I feel like the changes we got this week are good incremental changes, and they're not, too knee-jerk in one direction or the other. And I think that's probably a good place to leave it until we see where Tormented Demons land in the greater landscape of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you been doing this week, adventure-wise, that you want to share with our
this week and previous weeks, I guess? So we've been talking so much about Grandmaster quests and all that.
Yeah.
All over the place, honestly. I finally got my melee stats to level 75. That was a big goal of mine. So now the grind to 80 starts, because why the heck not?
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, I think strength might become more important than attack, because you just want to get the max hit up, and accuracy becomes less important. Like, high defense monsters, yes, but other than that, accuracy becomes...
like your bread and butter Slayer creatures and your combat training stuff. Once you hit a certain accuracy mark, you're good on that, and just focus on strength. I agree
I
with
still
that.
probably want to get 80 or 82 to unlock like a few equipable items, but after that, it's probably going to be
that's a good mark.
Good focus on strength after that. But yeah, until then, it's balanced all the way. To be honest, like, defense is maybe becoming a little bit less important as well. I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet, but yeah, there's that. I need to go back and finish off Slayer, the Slayer quest requirement, as well. I did go and did fire, like Wintertodt for fire making. I did Tempros for fishing.
You've just been everywhere then.
I have been I have been everywhere, exactly. I got 70 fletching because it wasn't 70 plus yet. Uh, I don't know. I sort of went into a frenzy and knocked out a bunch of things that I wanted to do. Did a few more gear upgrades as well. They're getting more expensive, so there's more time between them.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And
yeah, I think what I would like to be next week by next week's episode is to finish the Slayer requirement. It's the last thing I need for Quest Point Cape. At that point, all I need to focus on is just getting a higher combat level so that the combat becomes a little bit easier.
Right. Though to be fair, you remember Dave who was on with our Varlamore episode? He got Quest Cape on 95 combat.
Yeah, I'm not gone. I mean, I'm already 97 combat, so I can say with certainty that's not going to be me.
Yeah. So sure. I mean, it's possible.
I want 100 combat. I need to have access to the Shiloh Village Slayer Master. I'm gonna just say that.
You could say the name. Let's just say Duradel, because that's...
No, it's not. It's Curadel.
It might be Duradel for some people. For various reasons.
As well as the veteran best control boat. So those are two things I would like to get access to. Also for achievement diaries. So 100 combat is my immediate goal.
Nice.
But other than that, yeah, and we did a bunch of questing as well.
Goblin series, Cave Goblin series. Severely underrated in terms of just where everything lands. Very wholesome quests and good storytelling through it. Like people always, I feel like people forget about that quest line, but it's good.
It went weird in RS3 at some point. I think in the 6th age that really.
There was a lot of controversy about Chosen Commander and whatnot, which of course comes after the Land of the Goblins, which is where it ends here in Old School. So we'll see if and when that line continues, if they go similar or if they go in an entirely different direction on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always really, really, really enjoyed this quest line, mostly because in terms of storytelling, I think it does a lot of things right, but also in terms of like narrative theme, and music, right? It's good music with good recurring themes and all of that. So to me, it does a lot of things right, and I think it is a golden example of a lot of things what Quest should do, in my opinion. So,
yeah. I know you picked up.
If Jagex, if you're listening, please give us like the sequel to Land of the Goblins and Old School. And let's move the Cave Goblin series to also end with a Grandmaster quest eventually.
Oh! Now you're throwing down the challenge as to what that would be, given our discussion of Grandmaster here today. So okay,
I think especially with the 6th age not coming in Old School or not anytime soon.
No, it's not. I will quit the game if that happens.
I think there's an interesting direction we could go in here, and to me, humans against monsters like Ham, so much interesting, thematic stuff to do.
They could
interesting alliances, interesting factions.
They could lean in on what they tried to do on RS3 with the Godless, except have it be one of the factions against the Ham folks. Like the same sort of thing.
Exactly. It's gonna be very interesting. Of course, there's the whole, beliefs of Bandos. I have always appreciated Bandos for the same reason as I appreciate Zamorak at times, which is that at the very least, they stand for a single thing. And they're not hypocritical about it, right?
Yeah.
Bandos is just survival of the strongest. And you can think of that what you want, but at least it's a very basic dogma. And it's, in a sense, honorable.
Yeah, and then with that you can, lean into all the various facets of it when you start looking at it in, as they did in Land of the Goblins, and then seeing where the ripples go from that after. So I think it's just those general things that made me say, oh my God, this is, it's not that While Guthix Sleeps and Song of the Elves and the track we'd been on prior to that was bad. It's just, it's just fun having a different, different taste, a different palate cleanser with that. We also did Swan Song. We now have Monkfish.
Monkfish Gang.
Which was a shorter quest than I remembered it being for some reason.
Yeah, I think at least in my memory it has jumbled together with Love Story, which is the sequel to this.
Yeah, that might be it. And I'm trying to figure out the cutscene about when the wise old man got his party hat, because I thought that was accompanied with Swan Song, but I guess not.
I think you can get that cutscene by talking to the guard in the tree, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it was related to any quest.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. As for me this week, I kind of took a few days break after our Grandmaster spree. I was working on some PVM things on RS3, but I did manage to slip back into the old school thing this week, and I got 65 fire making, or hunter, as I told you. I just casually was typing to Siri on here, and I said, by the way, I got 65 hunter if you want to start angling towards the next My Arm quest. And you're like, hunter? Oh, I mean fire making. I just typed that and I didn't even realize it. But that was my Wintertodt experience.
I know why it is. Hunter has been on your mind lately because you've been telling people everywhere what a great skill that is.
No. But 65 fire making, presently 1 level off from the next My Arm quest, and been doing Wintertodt for that. And people are gonna wonder about, and this is had been a recurring thing apparently throughout my entire RuneScape career. People say I have great RNG. I think it's just normal RNG, but maybe I do, because on my second Wintertodt kill, I got the Tome of Fire.
I am shaking my head here. We're not recording video, but I'm shaking my head here. Yeah.
And I'm not an Iron Man, so I mean it's just a nice 800k or so that I got with that. But I'm just annoyed
by the fact that I've gotten 5 Burma torches so far, and not I'm still missing a piece of Pyromancer's outfit.
And how many kills do you have?
I don't actually know. Is there a way to check? There should be a way to check in combat achievements.
Yeah, probably. Right? I know it does say it after whenever you get a kill. But
65.
Okay, so that's about a third of mine, because I think I have around 23 or 24. So
yeah.
But and
so yeah,
and
we'll see.
That's the amazing thing. 50 to 65 is 20 odd Wintertodt kills. I need to go to 75 eventually, but I think I'm just going to take it to 66 before this update comes, and then just wait for the warmth changes.
That makes sense. I will probably go back. I don't know if I will wait, but I will probably go back, because it's like 1 piece of Pyromancer, and then I have the full set. So it's so close to get that. So I will probably go back at some point until I get that. I don't know if I will wait for the changes. I might. I'm not in a rush, but I really want it, so I could put it in my POH and forget about it to save myself some bank space.
You know what I used for my warm outfit? Well, I already told you.
I do know what you use for your warm outfit.
I used the Santa suit with Santa hat.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to get Pyromancer pieces, because they give bonus fire making XP, so you have to switch if you want to be efficient.
Of course, there's always and the reason there's a chuckle between us on this is that each and every year I progressively pull out the Santa Christmas gear on RS earlier and earlier.
Yeah, basically.
Last year was Halloween night.
Yeah.
So, which some people might say is too early, but hey, it's just a game. The real life stuff waits until after Remembrance Day. I could hear the look there.
You can hear the look. Good.
Well, on that note, I think that pretty much brings us to the end of the program for this week. As we always say, when the show devolves into tangents, that's when we know we're done for the week. As a reminder, as we mentioned at the top of the episode, go to take our survey, update.show/survey. We greatly appreciate your input on what you think of OSRS Update. Tell us what you think, what you like, what you don't like, and any extra comments that you have with that, update.show/survey. And of course, Siriana and I will be back next week for another episode of the Old School RuneScape Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
Bye.